Everyone, welcome to the Doctors Running podcast, where we, a group of doctors of physical therapy, talk about the art and the science of the things that we put on our feet. Today, I am joined by Dr. Salas, and we are going to do one of our comparison top 5 videos that we have done in the past. We're adding a little twist, which we've also done. So we're going to do our top 5 daily trainers of the last 2 years. So 2023, 2024, 2025, which we decided right before this to actually include because we have some favorites there, but we haven't told each other what our top picks are. And we're going to introduce each one starting from number 5 and ending with number 1 at a time. So we'll do a countdown. We'll show it, see if there's any matching between these, and then give both our takes on why we've chosen it, as well as takes potentially on the other person's. So David, are you ready for this?
I think so. Yeah. I don't know. I'm a little nervous. We'll see how this goes.
Are you able? David just finished watching the Super Bowl halftime, so he's recovering, right? Or like off the, I don't know how you describe it. What would you think?
I'm coming down off of the K-dot high. Yes, that is currently happening as we are discussing this.
Sweet. All right. So question for you. What are you training in right now before we dive into this? Or should we
training in right now?
Yeah. What shoes are you running in right now?
Oh man, classic me. I mean, one of the shoes I can't talk about at all. I signed something on that. Just finished that. So I just did a run in the Cloud Surfer 2. Mm-hmm. Would like to get some runs in the Cloud Surfer next from On and get a comparison video out for everyone. That's kind of the main focus for right now. I might try and get in some trails over the next couple of weeks as well. Use the Meta Fuji, from ASICS, and then the Merrell Nova 4 upper. Right. That shoe fits really nice. It's very cozy. I don't know if like the materials are gonna stack up quite as well with some of the other shoes, but as like a general walking, hiking, and light trail running shoe, or just generic easy day paces, that might be really nice. So I'm probably going to sprinkle in a little bit of trails here in the next few weeks, which is actually kind of different for me because I haven't really been doing that recently, even though I'm notorious for taking shoes in terrain that it shouldn't be in. I haven't been doing that as much as of lately, but now I will be taking shoes that are meant for that terrain in that terrain. So that'll probably be the next few weeks for me after once I'm done with the Surfer next.
Sweet. I'm kind of a similar boat where I just finally found some really great trails here, not specifically in Sherwood, but just south in Newburgh. And somebody's going to correct me if these trails are actually in Sherwood or Newburgh. That I've been able to get. They're a little steep, but still getting Isabella out there in the stroller and grinding. Oh my gosh! I've done the Meta Fuji trail from ASICS, which is pretty solid, a little firmer than I might like, and I'm finally getting some miles on the. Oh gosh, why am I blanking? The Hoka Tecton X3, which I just haven't had great trails until I found these. So I've been getting some miles on those, definitely on trails, but road wise, I'm pleasantly surprised. I can't talk tonight. Pleasantly surprised by the Puma Forever Run 2. I was not super happy. I was excited that it was being debuted, but I wasn't super happy with version 1. Version 2 is so much better, and it's actually pretty bouncy despite a weight gain. So that's been really good. I've also got the On Cloud Surfer 2 and Next. The Next I haven't run in, but I've walked quite a bit in. The Cloud Surfer 2 is going to be interesting. They made some changes there that have firmed it up compared to the really surprisingly soft ride of the last one. So I'm really curious to get more miles on those and go, hey, is this good? Is this not? But it's still a solid shoe. And I think On's balancing some stuff out while getting some stuff softer when it was firmer. So variety of things that we're testing. Those are solid shoes. For me, the ones that I mentioned are not going to make the cut tonight, at least not yet. We'll see if the Forever Run 2 can continue to progress. But let's jump in this. So again, to help people understand what we're doing, top 5 daily trainers from the last 2-ish years to 2023 to 2025. We are going to say them one at a time, starting at number 5. We're going to do a countdown, and then we'll talk about what we're doing and why we picked this one, why its place is there, and then talk about the other person's stuff if time allows. So, David, are you ready for number 5?
I am ready.
All right. So 3, 2, 1.
I put 2.
All right. Classic David. We're supposed to pick 1, but all right, David, go first. All right. Yes. Okay, I'm going to pick one that you have to pick one of the top one between the two.
No. This is we talked about this briefly. This is kind of like my 2025 watch list kind of here.
Okay.
So right. This is the Ride 18 I got my miles on. I got the review out. Everything's done on that. I think they cleaned up the upper, the fit. I think they kind of dialed in that integration with the PWRRUN Plus midsole. Outsole's good enough for most situations. It's a durable workhorse with good transitions. It's just light enough to where it doesn't feel super heavy on foot for how, durable this thing is. And I think there's enough bounce on this where it's like you can kind of pick up the pace when you want to. So this is kind of on that watch list where it's like this could maybe be a shoe of the year, but it's so early where it's like I just don't know yet. Right? Like I feel like this is But on the same category, Cloudsurfer 2. Now, again, I don't have all of my miles on it, but I think some of the stuff that I had beef with on the first model, they cleaned up like pretty well. And so what they did was they streamlined that upper a little bit. They made that tongue slightly different, a little bit more traditional lacing system, a little bit more of a robust upper, honestly. And then they fine-tuned that CloudTec phase here a little bit. It feels a little bit firmer. I think some of that is also the outsole is thicker and a little bit more grippy. But with that upper integration where it just locks that foot down better than it did in the first version for me. It feels a little bit less unstable. That rocker I can notice a little bit more now because of that. I don't feel like I'm dancing around on the platform as much. And the upper just holds it down well, and it has decent volume up front. It feels a tiny bit snug up on the dorsum there where the laces are, but that's only because of the way the tongue, it's a little bit thicker than the previous version, but it also just like, it holds its structure better. Like it literally just holds you onto it, and it's padded well. It's not like the laces are biting into my foot. Like it just feels a little bit more snug than the previous version in that area. But those small changes, I think, have paid dividends in the ride for me. But only time will tell, right? Like, I don't have full mileage on these yet. I don't have a full review out on them yet. So this is kind of a wild card that I'm just placing there. But I did like the Cloudsurfer 1. Those small caveats were like, I don't know if this shoe will do it for me. But those small caveats are now being fixed. So we'll see. I got to get more miles on them. Obviously, I got to run in the Cloudsurfer next. I feel like the Cloudsurfer next, I haven't run in it yet. So for the listeners, like for that one, that is still something I need to run in. And that one I feel like kind of fits my normal check marks that I look for. Just a little bit more streamlined, a little less pronounced on the rocker, a little bit more springy as far as what its goals are, at least for the midsole. A little stiffer profile all around. So I think we'll find out as time goes on. But my initial impressions on the Cloudsurfer 2, I'm actually very impressed. I think it's been a really nice ride for me. And I like that it's slightly firmed up. I mean, I kind of like shoes that are a little bit more on the firm side. Doesn't have to be rock hard, but just a little bit.
So question for you, why are these 1/2 not rated higher for you? I mean, you can't say what the other stuff is yet, but is there any reasons why they're not? Like, why are they 5? Like, why are they ranked number 5?
I was like, hold up. I didn't pick them as 1 and 2. That would be very premature for me to say Cloudsurfer is like.
No. Why are they number 5 and like not number 1, for example? I don't know if you could say anything on that, but
no. I mean, some of it is just data points. I don't have 100 miles on these shoes, right? I think one of the beauty of having shoes for a long period of time is that you can actually wear them as they're intended to be used. And you can take them through at least a relatively normal life. Sometimes we don't get shoes all the way up to 200 or 300 miles. We just don't because we have other shoes to review. But I think pretty much every shoe that I have listed beyond this point has at least 100, if not 2, which is a lot for me, to get on a single pair of shoes with how many we get. So part of it's data points, I think. Time will tell. I actually do really like the ride. I think the ride is kind of a wild horse here, wild card, and same with the Cloudsurfer. We'll see. I think I like them both for similar-esque reasons.
So yeah, that makes total sense. So the reason I'm choosing the Brooks Glycerin Max is because it's kind of one of my favorite Brooks shoes in quite some time. The lower drop is really nice. The Max ride, it actually as its name, feels really cushioned, not overly firm, but also not mushy either. It is the definition of a stable neutral shoe. It's finally got a solid heel bevel. The fit is the only thing that was a little troublesome for me, where it's like a half size short. It was good enough that I've got over 100 miles in this. So it's good enough for me to continue running and bruising my toe. That fit, the reason it's number 5 and not higher is, again, that fit is just a little shorter than it might need to be. And I think a lot of people might consider a half size up. Other people that aren't between sizes are going to be totally fine with true to size. But it ran much lighter than its listed weight. It's supposed to be a heavy, chunkier shoe. And actually, I really felt like I could roll, not do a workout, but at least do up-tempo stuff. Long runs were phenomenal in this shoe. And durability. This is my left shoe. There is barely any mark at all after 100 miles. So durability, major point. So I've really enjoyed this. Brooks did a great job. I was pretty, and I some of the biomechanists have made fun of me for this, pretty disappointed in the Ghost Max 2, where I think there was a lot of potential there. The Glycerin Max really made up for that and is a phenomenal shoe that makes me really excited to see what Brooks is going to do in the next little bit. But that is my number 5. Are we ready for number 4?
Number 4. I'm half deciding it right now, but I think
I know, me too.
Go with it. Okay, I'm ready.
I'm gonna. Dang it!
Shoot, man, I might flip flop. I'm gonna flip flop. I'm gonna switch. Okay.
Yeah, this is like neck and neck with number 3.
Yeah.
All right, I'm doing it. I'm committing.
We doing it?
Are we ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
3, 2, 1.
Hey,
I knew it.
I
knew you were going to choose that. I was about ready to ask.
So number 4?
So for those who can't see this, I should have mentioned. So I'm holding up the ASICS Nimbus 27. David is holding up the On Cloud Monster Hyper. Trying to get right. I was gonna ask him, why did you choose the Cloud Surfer 2 and not the Cloud Monster and then Hyper? And I'm like, it's probably coming up here, so I won't ask that. So David, go first on why you're choosing that for number 4, and if you want to give it why not higher, go into that as well.
Yeah, I'll start off with the why not higher.
Okay.
I think the volume's a little bit low, the width here. Sometimes you can feel that material kind of squeezing in on the toes a tiny bit. That you can just feel it. The tongue's a little bit shallow. I feel like the fit was really the only thing there. Ride-wise, I really liked this shoe. Obviously, I talked a lot about this shoe last year. You have the Helion HF foam that is kind of the main base of midsole there, and that is the super shoe foam that they have in there. So very compliant, a lot of cushion. It's got a good bounce to it, but it comes off a little bit firmer than you would expect. And the reason why that is because they have a layer of Cloud Tech, that kind of traditional midsole that they use for the On models, and it wraps around the posterior lateral heel, and it comes down the medial side of the foot and into the midfoot and forefoot there. And then it even kind of spoons out into the toes a little bit. Where I'm going with this is that there's some kind of stability mechanisms in place. It's not a stability shoe by any means, but it's a neutral shoe that has just some slight guidance and a little bit of aspects to like firm it up a little bit and make it a little bit less unstable of a platform.
Would you call it stable neutral?
For me, I think it would be.
Okay.
I think it depends on the person and how much they truly need. But if you're someone that just needs a little bit, and it's just a little bit more than the traditional neutral shoe, like it'll do that. And I think that's especially last year. I kind of joked I was in my stability era. I just felt like for whatever reason I needed just a little bit, but I didn't need a full-on stability shoe, right? In most situations, that this shoe kind of came in clutch. Now, the other reason why it's not higher is it weighs a little bit more, right? Like there's a lot going on this shoe. It's a high stack shoe. Yes, it's a nice plush rockered ride with a little bit of a bounce and some guidance, but I mean, it's like 10, 11 ounces, something like that. Ooh, it might be a little bit lighter. It might be like high 9s. I can't remember.
I think it's mid to high 9s if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a lot going on. Like there's certainly shoes lighter out there. And so it's one of those things where I couldn't really feel like the versatility of the shoe didn't quite translate to what I like in my shoes sometimes. So this is literally just a workhorse. This is like, I'm going to go out, I'm going to hit my daily miles, I'm going to hit my easy long run in this shoe. But if you ask me to pick the pace up, I'm probably going to choose something else.
I'm glad you said that, because I also struggle to get that shoe to go up tempo or even do workout stuff, which people love that and they swear by that shoe. I kind of struggled with that. It's a nice shoe for sure, but
yeah, it just felt like a little much for those types of efforts. And so like, it just didn't have quite the versatility I was hoping for, but that doesn't mean I didn't like the shoe. Obviously it's making this list.
Right.
And so for me to just beat the crap out of this shoe and run daily miles, that's what this is very good for.
Sweet. So for me, the Nimbus 27 was a big surprise to be on this list. I have 100 miles on it. There's a 100-mile review of this out. I was very surprised because David, I think you just said this on a podcast recently, that the previous Nimbus is kind of a little bit difficult because they were so soft. And so for people that like that, awesome. But I think for some of us, it's like, yeah, this is not going to be my top shoe for the shoes that I'm going to take and get a ton of miles on. Maybe a better walking shoe for a lot of people. The Nimbus 27, I think, is going to disappoint people that didn't like those Nimbuses, but very much grab people that didn't like them. So for me, it's a great workhorse. It's stable neutral, although not overly so. So it's just like mild enough for someone like me that can do longer in the shoe. The heel bevel is so much better. It's posterior lateral, and it's not firm. It's a slightly snappy ride that feels lighter than its listed weight. But the reason it's not higher is that, yes, it's a great shoe. It's a great shoe for eating up miles, great shoe for long runs, but it just doesn't have the versatility of shoes that I like. I typically like lighter weight trainers. It doesn't feel like it's listed weight, but it's still not quite that shoe that I would use for workouts or things like that. It's a premium shoe. It's a premium daily trainer. It's not a lightweight trainer, but it is phenomenal for getting miles on if you need something that's not mushy, still very cushioned, and yeah, the other thing, by the way, upper is mostly good. It's just for whatever reason, this toe guard, there is volume to this upper. It just makes that very top of the toe box feel really low volume, and there's a lot of pressure on the top of the toes. On the run, I don't notice that as much, at least as things move on. But when I'm walking or like the early parts of the run, I do notice that. So that and the fact that I would like something lighter, which is not the purpose of the shoe, is why it is number 4. But it's still a great option. And in my opinion, the best Nimbus that I have tried in a long time, but because it kind of is running like a not traditional Nimbus. So there we have it. Are we ready to move on to number 3?
We can move on to number 3. Sure, let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Got him. I'm going to hit him with 2 again.
Oh, wow. I will caveat. So I am holding up the ASICS GT 2013. What I am actually meaning to hold up is the GT 2012, which I like better, and I will talk about that. David is holding up the ASICS Nova Blast 5 and the Super Blast 2, and usual thing where he violates the rules and does 2 at the same time. So David, let's have you go again first, just for continuity's sake.
Yeah, no, I think for this one, it's really an either or. I think they're both really good shoes. They're both really versatile. They're both durable. It's really just what you're looking for out of the shoe. Geometrically speaking, for the most part, the experience is actually decently similar between the two models. It's really just whether or not you want Blast Plus or Turbo Plus, right? And that does change things. It's higher up. I think the rides are somewhat similar.
I don't think the rides are similar. Oh, well, let's talk about this. Let's go. This is the whole point of this. Keep going. Sorry.
But obviously one comes in at 140. So that's going to be a massive swing for most people. The Super Blast 2 is 200.
Yes. $200. Yeah.
I personally gravitate more towards the Super Blast 2. We talked about this in the last podcast episode. But I can see someone making a decision in either direction and having it be totally valid in both situations. And I think they're both decently durable. It's a Super Blast 2, less durable than the first one, probably a little bit.
Yeah.
It's still pretty durable, though. When we look at it, so Blast Plus, it has a decent amount of compliancy, good amount of cushioning. It still is just a tiny bit firm. It's kind of like that stable neutral. I feel like for the Nova Blast has kind of been for a while. You have a lot of sole flaring going on in the shoe. Kind of a balanced rocker. What's that?
I would say that the Nova Blast 5 is probably the best stable neutral. I feel like the first two were not stable at all.
Yeah, yeah. 4 and 5, I feel like really turned that around.
Yeah, even 3. Yeah, it was not the greatest for that, although it was turning around. 4 was kind of clunky, just that like it slapped, and then 5 is way smoother. But
the
yeah, some good sidewalls. Yeah, the sidewalls do a better job for a lot of people. I wouldn't say it's, for me personally, not full stable neutral, but it's definitely a lot better than the previous versions. But yeah.
Yeah, a little bit more plush upper too, softer materials, kind of a nice daily trainer, but it's light and versatile. So it's like, if you want this to be kind of an everything shoe and you're kind of more on the recreational side and you're like, hey, I want to train in the shoe I run my marathon in, like the Nova Blast can do that.
Fully
so
agree.
That is why that is as high as it is on this list. For all of those same reasons, the Super Blast 2 is also on that list, but with a slight caveat on this, and it kind of leans more towards the versatility of the shoe. I do think geometrically they have the tall sidewalls. It's kind of a balanced rocker profile. For the most part, I do feel like the transitions are somewhat similar. It's the materials that are different, and how you use those materials might change your experience in the shoe. And the midsole is the Turbo Plus. Wait, Turbo Plus, right? Not regular Turbo? Or is it Turbo?
No, it is Turbo Plus.
Turbo Plus. Yeah. Turbo Plus. Turbo Plus. Yep, right there. I was like looking for the marking. I'm like, oh Jesus. It's like you have to like really squint to look at it.
Yep.
Turbo Plus and Blast Plus, like thin little tiny layer on the very bottom. But this is a more responsive foam. When you load it, it will respond more. And for how much foam is on this, it's 45 millimeters of stack, give or take?
Yeah, I think it's 45, 37. We should check that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should. Super Bowl halftime show kind of took away my my homework time for the pod. I'm not going to lie.
Yep, 45, 37. You're right.
And anyways, a little bit more compliant under load. It's more resilient. So when you slam into that thing, it's going to bounce back with a little bit more oomph. It's in that 8-ounce range. For how much foam there is, this is a pretty light shoe. This is more foam than most super shoes. Technically not race legal. I mean, no one cares if you're a normal person racing.
Yeah, no one's gonna. I think it's a great alternative, honestly, to a lot of racing shoes out, like super shoes.
Totally.
I think many of the recreational runner and people that just find the what am I saying? That find a lot of super shoes too aggressive for them. This is a way better option. It's still incredibly light, although the first version was lighter, incredibly light for its stack height and resiliency, but also stable neutral while still being able to move pretty quick, which is great. So,
yeah. And so like, kind of like what you said, stable neutral, but being able to move pretty quick. That is kind of the reason why I put both of these on there, right? Like, I feel like they both kind of check those boxes. Is this a little bit, this being the Super Blast 2 for the listeners, is this a little bit more resilient? Is this a little bit more responsive? Can this do a little bit more? Sure.
Yep.
Is it worth, $60 extra bucks? Maybe, depending on who the person is. It just depends on what your goals are and what you want out of the shoe. But I think the general theme is relatively consistent there. They feel like a natural progression of each other. And so that's the reason why I brought them up together. I try not to break the rules too much on these episodes, but they seem similar enough to me where I can group them together.
Right.
And so it really just depends on the goals of the individual. But I think because of the versatility, like they get that number 3 nod. And it's kind of funny because like neither of these shoes got a number 1 award from me in 2024, which feels silly for them to be collectively number 3 for the last 2 years.
Right.
They're like the honorable mention kings. You know what I mean? Like there's just like something that just slightly edges it out for whatever category it is, but it's jack of all trades. It can do a little bit of everything. So like, I think for the performance trainer, like the Endorphin Speed 4 edged this one out. But as far as like hitting daily miles, like I would probably choose this one, right? Like, so it just kind of, I don't know. Sometimes things get a little bit lost in the categories. Maybe that's up for us later on to tease out a little more, but I just think it's kind of funny for me to have both these shoes at number 3 for the last 2 years, but none of them got a number 1 award in their respective year. But
all right. So I brought up the ASICS GT 2013, but I really meant the GT 2012. I found the 13 to be firmer. It's still a great shoe. It's one of the lightest stability shoes out there. I just like 12 better because it was a little bit softer and a little bit more forgiving. I still got 100 miles on this, but I did enjoy my miles in the 12 better than the 13. I think for those with a little bit slightly lower volume feet, wanting just something a little bit firmer, 13 is going to be better. But if you wanted that, decently plush ride that was still on the lighter side, that for me worked really well for both workouts as well as doing easy runs, long runs, and it was just stable enough and it wasn't too aggressive. Like, it's a good stability shoe for sure, but I just felt like the 12 did a really, really good job. And it was such a massive departure from the previous versions of like a better bevel, starting to integrate that internal geometry, a better fit, that was definitely a top one. One of the reasons it's not listed a little bit higher is how do I say this? It's a great shoe. It's still a little bit more on that training side. So the next ones are really going to get into my perfect trainers, I want to be able to do everything in them. And that's kind of me, that lightweight trainer, that shoe that I can take comfortably for a workout and also do a long run and easy runs in. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that versatile thing because I like that do it all shoe. So it's on the lighter side. I think for people wanting a stability shoe for like marathons, I think it's an excellent shoe, but I think there are also some shoes that can go faster. So that's where we'll go next. Man, I almost screwed up, so I have to make some adjustments because I realized we said 2023, and the shoe I was almost going to pick is in 2022. So I just had to make some adjustments here.
3 years old now.
Okay, so I'll adjust this. But are we ready for number 2?
Number 2, I'm ready.
All right, so 3, 2, 1.
Hey,
we
just flip-flopped each other. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to switch things. I'm going to go first this time. I'm going to curious to hear this, the reasoning. But so I chose ASICS Superblast 2. I was actually going to choose the Superblast 1 for my best one. Then I realized, oh my gosh, that's 2022. Like, why did I see that? So I like the Superblast has been a shoe I've been getting miles on for years. I loved version 1. I had over 200 miles in the first version and it held up really, really well. The Superblast 2 still holds a lot of things. I just feel like it is a slight step back from the original Superblast. I will say durability is still great. It's still awesome. I'm just wearing through it a little bit quicker. I really like this as stable neutral. It's one of the lightest types of shoes in this category out there, or one of the lightest shoes in this category out there. It is phenomenal. It's great for workouts. It's great for long runs. It can handle easy runs. The only reason it's not number 1 is, the slight loss of durability. And the fact that toe box just takes forever to break in. I felt like version 1 was a little bit better. This one is really tapered and just maybe I need a half size up like the Ghost Max, or not the Ghost Max, Ghost Max 2 and Glurson Max. And it's just a teeny bit clunkier in the rear foot. Like, it's aggressive. Like, it almost feels like Novast 4 kind of snap, which is great during workouts, sometimes a bit much during easy runs. So it's still a top shoe that I've got like 160 miles on my pair now, which is awesome. There's just some small things that need to be ironed out for me to want to keep doing this and for it to be number 1. So hopefully Superblast 3 will do that, but it's still an awesome shoe and checks off a lot of the boxes of the shoe that I would want that kind of can do a little bit of everything. David.
Nice. Yeah, so for me, if you were listening, we flip-flopped. So I'm ASICS GT 2013 here. 13. You got 13. Me confused now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I know I held up 13. I meant version 12 because I no longer have version 12.
Yeah, so I like 13 better. Again, I like shoes to be just a little bit firmer. I think it's just a little bit stable, a little bit more stable for me, without being overly stable. You know what I mean? Like, it has the sole flaring. It doesn't have any formal posting, but it has that kind of 3D guidance system that they have integrated into it. It's light. It's, got decent grip. I can kind of do a little bit of everything with it. Now, for me, with my daily trainers, I like having some versatility to it, but I don't really ever work out in my daily trainers. I almost always pick out another shoe. So, option to pick it up and do long runs, yes. But as far as hitting formal workouts in them, I don't really look at that quite as much when I look at my trainers that I'm looking at for my personal, like, this is my trainer. So things like the Endorphin Speed 4 and like shoes like that, like, it's not on this list. I'm sorry. It's not my number 1 for today. I'll just say it out there. It's a phenomenal shoe. It's very versatile. All the things that we're saying, it was my performance trainer of the year this last year. It's not on my trainer list right now because when I'm thinking right now, I'm thinking my daily mileage and those types of things with the option of a little bit of upside. So I'm really looking at the comfort of my day-to-day daily mileage and long runs. So that's kind of where some of these picks are coming from. But I feel like, I mean, I've taken the GT on probably 2 or 3 20-mile runs at this point, and it's been just fine for me. It's been one of my favorite shoes from the second I got it. I've barely made a dent. Barely. Nice. I mean, like, this thing is durable. Like, I can take this as long as I really want to take it. I have maybe, I don't know, for me a lot, 150 to 200. I don't know exactly what I have on it. I'd have to go grab my notebook. Yes, I have a notebook that I track things manually on because I am ancient in the tracking world.
That's okay.
But I've got a lot of miles on it, and that was my trainer of the year last year. It's good. It's got a little bit of upside with some picking up the pace. It's one of the lighter stability models out there in a year where I needed a little bit of stability and a little bit of versatility. So it was there for me when I needed it.
Sweet. All right. Drum roll begins for number 1.
I can almost guarantee the listeners that we're not going to have the same shoe for number 1.
I could 100% guarantee you, actually. All right.
What are you going to lift up? You're going to lift up like a Carhu or something?
No, actually, I mean, so
shout out Carhu. That's not a stab at Carhu.
Okay,
I love the Ikoni.
So funny story on that. One of my favorite shoes is the Bastari run, and I saw they had version 1.5, and I'm like, oh, Nathan, can I see that? A lot of the other Carhu stuff for some reason like doesn't work as well for me, but like we have some like underlying love for Carhu for sure. So the Bastari runs.
The Ikoni is great.
I didn't like it as much. David loves the Ikoni. Yeah,
you're the only one on the team. You're the only one that doesn't like that shoe.
I know, but I love the Bastari run, so I'd make up for it. All right, 3, 2, 1. Oh wow! Okay, now we really see. I gotta keep telling Nathan we got to get the Vomero 18. So, all right, David, go first. I want to hear this.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was flip-flopping. I was trying to figure out where I wanted to place this, and especially with how much I liked the Asics GT 2000 this last year. Now, the Vomero kind of breaks some of the rules that I've been talking about, where I kind of like firmer shoes. This is not that firm of a shoe. It's firmed up a little bit just because of the Cushlon layer here. It's a 2-layer midsole. So you have the kind of basic Cushlon EVA on the underside here, and then this is all Zoom X on the top layer. That Zoom X is quite soft and quite bouncy, but the underside of it kind of firms it up a little bit, which makes this a little bit more manageable. This is a shoe that doesn't have a super dramatic rocker. I think I do tend to, I usually for my daily miles, I like shoes that aren't super dramatic on those profiles. And the GT 2000 fits that. The Nova Blast and Super Blast are a little bit more rockered, but they're still kind of more on the balance side. It's not quite like a super banana rolling type shoe. Cloud Monster a tiny bit more, but still a little bit more balanced. The other ones ride, not quite as crazy. So you can kind of see the geometries that I kind of like. Vomero fits that, right? You have a bevel, you have some forefoot rocker and toe spring, but it's not much, right? Like this is a pretty balanced shoe. It's a little bit more flexible up front too, which is kind of interesting because this is a shoe that has a lot of cushioning. This is a shoe that's max stack for the most part, for Nike at least. And it's very flexible up front. So when you go to bend it, boom, right? It's a weird kind of dichotomy where you get a lot of cushion underfoot, but you still kind of have a natural feeling toe off. And you get a lot of grip underfoot too, the lug kind of pattern. I felt like I could take it in most situations that I wanted to take it. That was my daily trainer of the year for 2023. And it's a shoe where it has plenty of cushion for long runs. I have zero issue taking it on long runs. Upper fits me pretty well. The only thing is the tongue. I have to kind of adjust it sometimes, make sure the laces don't bite down super tight. But for the most part, it almost always does really well for me. And it has just enough responsiveness with that Zoom X and the traction underfoot, like where I can kind of take it and do a little bit of up tempo and work it. And so for it being kind of the premium trainer for Nike, it's kind of funny because it's a little bit more versatile than it would let on, because usually in the running shoe world, the premium quote unquote option is kind of the heavier, bulkier, like you're just kind of looking to have a smooth ride and a lot of cushion. And it does that, but I think it has some upside with picking up the pace a little bit as well. And even running off of the road. I mean, I've been able to run in trails with the Vomero. Not crazy trails, but some.
Compared to some other shoes that you take on trails, the Vomero, that's not surprising at all. Because hold up the bottom for those that are listening. Let me describe this. Like both the Pegasus and the Vomero usually do a pretty good job with a decent, like a moderately lug outsole, although pretty decent for a lot of road shoes. So I feel like Nike, the Vomero, and Pegasus have always done that. So that's not surprising at all that you can take that on trail. It's not like an aggressive trail shoe, right? But that's not surprising at all.
Basic trail running, yeah. So it's one of those shoes where that versatility, but versatility more on the training side of versatility, not necessarily like hitting the track super fast versatility. It has a lot of upside. And that was kind of the main reason why I put it at number one. It was a shoe that I've agreed with since the day I put it on my foot.
Right.
And it kind of shocked me. I remember it was a very pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting to like that shoe as much as I did for whatever reason. But it's kind of stood the test of time. I still have it 2 years later, right?
Sweet.
Like this is still on my rack. I don't really wear it that often anymore because of all the other stuff we're testing, but I still have it. And that speaks enough volumes right there.
David gets rid of his shoes pretty quick. Now, I will say I'm really curious. We don't have these yet, and I'm also making some assumptions that, so Nike, you know how they have the Pegasus line got spread into the Peg Premium, which we have and we're working on right now. And hopefully the review will be out by the time this podcast goes live. They have the inline Pegasus and then the Pegasus Plus. So apparently their other models are actually going to get split into that same thing. So I'm very curious to see what you think. I'm assuming it's called, there's going to be I don't know this, but I'm assuming there's going to be a Structure Premium, Structure Plus, and then a Vomero Premium and Vomero Plus, which is really interesting. So I'll be very curious to see what you think of Vomero 18, if this is a thing, the Vomero Premium, and then a Vomero Plus, given that you like the Vomero 17. So we'll have to see. This is not confirmed. We don't work with, I would love to do some additional testing with Nike and work with that stuff, but that's just assumptions from some of the things we've heard. So we'll have to see and come back to that.
If someone out there is listening, we'd love to try the 18. I've seen the videos of it. I haven't actually held it though. So that'd be great.
So I knew that David wasn't going to be able to pick this one because unfortunately this didn't get sent to him. Sorry. Hopefully we can get this to you. This is the Saucony Endorphin Trainer, which this is going to be a controversial pick because I know a lot of the other reviewers actually dislike this shoe. They're just like, it's, expensive. It wasn't as light as this was supposed to be. But when I've got, and that is true. But when I've gotten this on my foot, the durability is so much better. This is like 115 miles. So the outsole is still intact, getting a little bit of wear at that lateral forefoot. But I think what the magic of this shoe is finally getting the, the Incrediron foam. I personally don't like the Endorphin Elite 2. I think the full Incrediron is way too soft. It's not kind of in the paces that I like, which is usually 5K, 10K. And I feel like the integration here with the bottom layer of Power Run is phenomenal. This shoe has done everything. This is my new Shift. I still wish they had a newer version of the actual Shift? Yes, but this is the closest thing to replacement that I've found. It is very much stable neutral. The way the shoe is designed, that midfoot is filled in on the medial side. Believe it or not, the Power Run foam comes up just a little bit higher on the medial compared to lateral side. So there's people that need a little bit of lateral stability. This is going to be great, but it's also got this kind of performance trainer fit that's done really, really well. And I've done every type of workout in this. I've done an easy run, long run, recovery run. I've done all kinds of tempo runs in this. I've done intervals. If I didn't know what I was going to have to do, if I had to do a marathon tomorrow, this is what I'd put on if I wasn't comfortable enough to go race a fast, use a super shoe. It's bouncy. I've done everything in it. I really enjoy it. The better durability is great. And I think its ability to handle a lot makes it a fairly good Shift replacement. There is I think it's a 3/4 length carbon fiber plate. And it's broken in, there's still a tiny bit of flexibility. So it's not as rigid as some other stuff. It's still snappy, and I've really enjoyed it. And again, I love the Shift. So this is the closest thing I found to a Shift replacement. And it's been a great shoe to get miles on. As soon as, when I have a quiet moment, it's probably something I'm going to try to get up to 200 miles in and see if it survives. But that awesome responsiveness without being unstable, the transition ability to go any pace is what I really look for in a trainer. And so it wins out over the Superblast just because that it fits a bit better. It's not as clunky and just a little bit more responsive, despite being heavier. It's a shoe that I would pick to go faster over that. So yeah, I think Saucony did a good job. You just have to make sure that your expectations and what you're looking for match. It is slightly higher stack, but it is not like a super, super, super max. Like, I think it's just a little over 40 millimeters, which I think is fine. I don't think I want much more of that. I think it could be lighter in some way. I think the upper is a little thicker than maybe it needs to be. So I would love to see this get into the low 9, if not high 8 range without sacrificing the durability and the responsiveness. But for a daily trainer that can handle everything, which is exactly what I wanted, this is really it.
Yeah, I knew you liked that shoe, but yeah. I didn't realize it was number one. Now I'm a little jelly. I didn't get that one.
I know. Hopefully we can get Saucony to send you that one and the rest of the team. I think I'm the only one that got it, actually.
Really?
So, but yeah, it's been a great shoe. I've really enjoyed it as it checked off all those boxes. So yeah, those are our picks. And I'm really curious. We're both really curious to know, do you agree or disagree with that stuff? Obviously, I understand, and somebody gave me a hard time for this, that I really like the Endorphin Trainer. I know it's not out yet. If you have tried it, and somehow, yes.
Is it not out yet?
It's not out till March. Well, by the time this comes out, maybe? No, it's March. March is when it comes out. Supposedly.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard so many people talk about it over the last few months. I thought it was out already.
No, so March 2025, I think. But the other ones, we are very curious to hear what you think. What are your top 5 daily trainers of the last 5 years? Do you agree or disagree with any of our picks? We're really, really curious to see what everybody else is thinking, because that's the whole reason we do this. We want to share and hopefully give some expert opinions to help all of you kind of figure out what works better for you. But we also want to know what is working better for you, because we are all very, very different. And that's really what we want you to do. We want you to learn what's best for yourself and start figuring that out so you can have a better run and enjoy this stuff more. As always, you can find us on a variety of different social media platforms. Our incredible human being and social media wizard, Bach, is always putting out stuff on so many different platforms, be it Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, which has garnered quite a following. And I keep saying that like every time just because I'm so surprised. But yeah, that thing is, baby. Yeah, dude, that place is common. And lots of other places. You can catch this stuff, the podcast, on both Spotify, variety of areas. And then, of course, you can see it visually on YouTube, and we let this stuff out every week. And as always, we really hope this helps. We really want to be a beneficial thing that helps educate you, because we consider ourselves educators and definitely not influencers. I hate that term. Please don't call us that. We're educators and hope this stuff helps you figure out better about what stuff works best for you.